done is I've made pointers, and I wanted to discuss a few things. Conditional relationships, what is in it for me programs and expectations. Those are conditional relationships. How to function from an unconditional space is a process that must be worked through the illusion. We commit to each other in agreement to engage, and from it the lineage and that of morphogenic fields, energetic hooks. And I would like to give a few examples, but while I was doing this, to see what I wanted to do, is I started making more freaking notes here. And I just, before I start into the examples, I think here I have even thoughts / beliefs bind up our light with corruption. When we remove it all, we become sovereign and unconditional. And then saying conditional relationships. So I think imposing on our free will with certain conditions to keep our heart closed. The root chakra has been ruling over our heart for far too long, when it was always meant to be the other way around. Love, then thought. So, yeah, I mean, we can be coming from the heart all the time, but we have to become enlightened. We do have to have that Kundalini experience to enlighten, to become enlightened beings. And yes, then we can be rooted and centered and grounded from the heart space, from a matriarchal, fifth-dimensional world. Okay. Now, okay, so patriarchy versus matriarchy, I put here, preventing us from being accepted authentically for who we are. Give the example: emotionally and financially unfulfilled, blocked from the patriarchal to directly access the divine feminine of nature's material wealth, sustainably through work. Okay, and then I put here, I have these little weird things going on. Root chakra, star, south node, crown above the funeral services. This can close the heart. Trauma for two-power struggle, the energy from the root chakra, sacral, grief from the crown to heart and solar plexus, expressed outwardly. Okay, so basically what this was saying, and below the root chakra is this, and from the crown, okay, this is going into something like a Merkaba. Okay, and we do have Merkabas. And, we have the higher self of opportunity, and then the soul purpose that might not be properly aligned. And, we do change when we adjust and we learn and we expand and we grow. And, from this magnetism, the frequency, we can hold more light and then expand. Okay, so what has happened with me is owning up to my sexual creative power and not giving it away for approval, not being accepted or denied financial opportunities or positions because of the patriarchal currency that revolves around sex and money, carry with it the shadow of the false matriarchal procreator. The higher lack is in the heart, to not be allowed to stay open and fully express from matriarchal currency, rather than a forceful, more imposed upon the will of one over the other in exchange. The emotional self-fulfillment is this financial validation of this manhood, and through it the secondary component that is woman from his image. And this image, okay, it's not just me standing here, it's many pictures that go to make the movement, and from it our imagination is derived from many slides of images. Okay, and so I found myself, and so we're looking at conditions here. Okay, in between the lower heart chakra, line, jealousy, and upper solar plexus, greed, is this imprinting, attachment of spirit to the physical via root chakra, imprinting of lack, and programs the not enough pattern to stick into its conditional awareness of practice with such an existence of deprivation and starvation. And so second, explain the difference of two worlds, other between sacral and root chakra. Okay, I've had an opportunity. It was during the solar eclipse. I think it was right on that day. I decided to give it one last fighting chance. And I went to a funeral home, and it's family owned, Italians or Portuguese, whatever. I don't want to give it too much information out. And I did as the lady told me. She gave me her advice that, hey, I called, a few days before, and I said, well, did they receive my my resume cover letter from Indeed? And they gave me this person's, the managing director who does the hiring, who's not part of the family members. And okay, so I directly also gave him my cover letter resume, but then she said under her experience that she walked in, non-licensed and everything else, and they took her, and she did her funeral director and assistant, and she went through school. They put her through school, everything, and now she's advising me that, this is for an assistant's position. I don't mind what level you put me in, because all these things of identity to fit in, it's all ego-driven. So yes, I'm at the top of the echelon or whatever hierarchy as a class 1 funeral director, but I still want to be a team player. I want to be involved. I want to work and earn a living doing this because it pays good. Okay, and I deserve it. Okay, so I figure, why not go in as an assistant and get paid more than do general labor? And this is a part-time job, and it fits me just like if the shoe fits, wear it. It was for me. It was perfectly aligned. The universe brought it for me. So I did. I took her advice. I walked in a little bit early during, services and everything, and I got to meet him in person. But before that, they thought that I was already hired. I looked like this, and I blended right in. So as soon as I finally got to meet the girl I was speaking over the phone, I said hi, and she started telling me what to do. Like, this is the visitation room for so-and-so, you got to help us set up, and she was giving me all these directions. And I thought, well, I remember speaking to you over the phone. I just came in to give my, you advice. She said, oh, I thought you were, already hired. Okay, so they didn't know what to make of it. And all of a sudden, I was just blending in and working and fitting in with them until the managing director came in and said, so I gave him my resume cover letter, and he said, well, I know you. You look familiar. So, okay, I did, and I let it go. And a few days later, I call him up, because he's avoiding my calls, obviously. And, the actual family members of the firm say, it's like, they gave me his cell number, whatever, doesn't matter. And the position has been already filled. He avoided my calls until that very moment that, the position has been filled and it's been taken by a family member. So what is it about me that you didn't like that I can help myself to further fit in? He says, well, I don't even know you. So it's not even them. So what it's letting me know is all these contradictions, it can make a person go mad. It's crazy, because nothing really makes sense. But one thing that did make sense, from that time that I made contact over the phone with that girl that I'm actually coming in, and I actually started feeling this horrific pain in between the right side, my lower waist, like serious back problems, like something that just gave out. And it brought me to that awareness that was activated from previously, now we're in 2019, that had happened, like it's going to be a repeat from 2012. And I was working part-time, doing the same thing as a funeral director, but they wanted me, I guess, as an assistant or a cleaning lady. They didn't really put me in the position where I'm supposed to be. And when I was trying to do that and put myself in that position, they kind of, you should be ashamed of yourself, because they found out I'm, a lesbian. And so it was none of their business anyway, but they found out through the intern that went around who's pregnant, single mother, and they gave her the opportunity. Whatever, that's fine. But, you know, this gossip thing, and then the actual owner, who was the mother in her 80s, going on to Alzheimer's, looking at me like I should be ashamed of myself. So this thing that kind of reminded me is this pain, this blockage, whatever that hook was, it's being released up into the surface. And whatever that solar eclipse had caused, it brought that debris to reactivate. But this was such excruciating pain that I got from lifting their vacuum. And it has to do with power struggle. I don't know if you want to have your own understanding of it. I guess you can read up on Louise Hayes or whatever her energies. But for me, what it means to me, it hit me in that area of the sacral root area. And it hit me really hard where I couldn't even walk. I was like a cripple almost, but I still stood, you know, I sucked it up and went and did everything that I was supposed to do. But if I didn't have that pain, I would be even more involved, like, you know, actually lifting the chairs instead of the manager doing it, and actually forcing myself even more in there to actually get the job, even, you know, like really forcing my will in there. Because sometimes, you know, they don't get it. I guess that's the way they kind of work, through rape and all these kind of things. And the lack of expression that they have with love, they're dealing with it all the time. It's called grief. Okay? So these were the things that we're dealing with. And that pain, that energy, that trapped pain was there right up until he said to me, we already have the position filled by a family member. And then the pain went away. It's like, what is that? So this is an experience I wanted to give out. It's a power struggle amongst the sexes. It's a power struggle that the currency, the financial economy, and everything, it revolves around. So my image, I already feel masculine, too masculine with this tie as it is, but apparently this is the way they dress to fit in. Okay? So before, why I even got into funeral services was because I could feel me as authentic as I possibly can in this world in those days, as a woman, to actually work with my power as an empowered woman to work and make a difference. Well, this thing no longer applies. And whatever lineage that I had to work out through the Plutonian death, whatever it was, through past lives, I guess it's been worked out, because now I'm no longer aligned with that soul purpose to that. However, I have no other way of earning a living that I would know how to do and actually make money so I can breathe life into my other businesses. And this was a part-time that I would be making enough to kind of just be me and continue on. So obviously there is unresolved issues that I still need to be given a chance by that world that refuses to give me that chance. So this bridge of us being bridge keepers for the in-between worlds and you know, in between the worlds to keep both worlds is crumbling. And we gotta find a way of either saying either one side or the other. So whatever it's going to be, you can contribute by waking up and doing your part. And that means, in very little ways, you know, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to promote giving out loans in a world of abundance? Promote lack? You know, little things like that. And, you know, we can move out of the disillusionment. Or we can choose to stay in it as young souls and play around with it and then recycle and whatever else you want to do. But this was one of my experiences. And I think we've got to leave it, cut it there, and I can continue on.